Hello people, and welcome back to part 9 of the Noobs Guide to City Skylines. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much indeed for all the support and kind comments across our last episode, where we very much respected the topography and introduced some inland green cities vibes, which is something we haven't done on the channel for a long time. But using the natural landscape, playing with this ball and some elevated arterial and public transport networks, we can certainly bring together a much more different aesthetic with green cities, right, compared to kind of our regular zoning that we started out with here when we first started playing this city. So hopefully a nice little example of how much the DLCs can change things. And in our theme of continuing to introduce the DLCs, today we are going to add the campus DLC in and work on our first campus build. The giraffes, however, have burnt down, so we do need to replace these. Let's go ahead and throw in a new giraffe enclosure. So now that we have the fire helicopters in from last episode, that should stop them from burning down. So I'll mine up this space here today as we begin to eventually head in towards downtown Noobs Guide, which doesn't really make that much sense, but this is what the series is called. So let's build our first campus, shall we? So before we start building a campus, there's a few things we need to talk about with the campus DLC and indeed your game setup. So coming into our education and now campus areas tab once the DLC is installed, you will notice 4 new tabs along the top. One for a trade school, a liberal arts college, a regular university, varsity sports and museums. Now these campus areas can get very big and will hold a lot of students. If you are playing with 9 tiles or on the console editions of the game, you will only need one of these campus areas for your city. It's a little bit of a downside in the fact that you can't build all 3. If you're playing with an 81 tile city, possibly 25 tiles as well, you can maybe squeeze in 2 level 5 campuses, but for a single, very basic vanilla city like this, we're only going to need 1 campus for this entire city. So you could argue it's a little bit imbalanced in that fashion, but it's kind of each to their own, right? So one thing we want to do before we start building a campus area is to come through and either turn off or delete any existing buildings that are providing university education for the Sims in the city, because they are going to siphon Sims from our campus into this building, and we need them to come to the campus in order for the campus to level up. So go around and either delete or disable any buildings that are providing university education. This can be the university itself, the Modern Institute of Technology from Green Cities, or the faculty building from the high-tech content creator pack. If you have any of those placed, turn them off and then come and start your campus area. So it's a new area, right? Let's see what we're working with here. So last episode, we very much respected the topography, okay? And I think for a green cities build like that, it was appropriate. It needed that respect. And I think it came out quite nicely. But today, we're very much going to be disrespecting the topography by attacking its beliefs and values, by terraforming it out so we have a nice flat landscape to work with for our campus area. And again, this is just to stop any sort of weird terrain junk that we get when we start placing buildings down. And terraforming out a layer like this against current existing infrastructure, like our soon-to-be expanded highway today, is also going to start detailing the city as well when you're playing with different heights like this, okay? So I'm just going to terraform myself out a pretty rough square. I can also now trim off these power lines. So this first layer here is going to be my university area, okay? Now I want to come in and grab a layer for my highway to sit on. Again, I'm going to right-click that layer, and then I'm going to start bringing it around, letting the highway eventually flow across the bridge, to which point we can actually buy some new tiles now. So let's come into our overview, and I'm going to grab this one at the top. That's wonderful, and I'm going to grab this one to the side as well, and that's all we have for the time being, which is fine. That's going to give us enough room. So I'm going to terraform this outright and then bring my highway around the back to act as something of a natural border for the campus to end. So now that my highway is in, I can use that as a new boundary in order to terraform my landscape against. And we'll see what this does for the city today as well. It will also integrate some public transport into this as well, which will eventually feed into our downtown. Okay, so here we are, okay, highway's extended, and we can now see this very obvious jump in kind of height and layers. Again, all things that are going to work to help complement our university. Very much in the same vein that industry areas and park life areas cannot overlap, neither can campus areas either, so they will eat into each other if you're drawing them over the same area. So just be careful of that. So I'm just going to use the highway as a natural snap boundary for my campus area, and then bring this down onto the roundabout as well. So I can already see a few additions to the area that I want to make here. I'm going to carry on extending my arterial network here to come over onto the right side of the campus. I think I'm going to go with bicycle lanes, okay? I'm going to have this run pretty much straight the way through. Let's just give ourselves something of an initial frame for right now. And that should be okay. Also using the cycle lanes, so our cycle highway is going to continually extend through this area too. And we also have elevated cycle highway, which can now be brought off and factored into a new build. I also have to relocate these water towers. We're actually at the point where we need some new water treatment, so it's probably a good point to come and place in some new pumps, I suppose. Okay, so we have all other university providing assets turned off or deleted in the city. We have a space where we're planning to work with, and everyone is ready and happy to go. Let's go into our roads and start developing an entrance for the campus, shall we? So, I want to come off of this main 6-lane here that we drew in quite a few episodes ago now. I'm remembering everything that we've done so far, as in I don't want to be drawing out a road here because these two junctions are horrendously close to each other. So everything that you've learned is still going to apply here. Give yourself breathing room from the junctions on the entrance into the highway here. So I want to bring out by maybe 20 tiles. Also going to come off road guideline here, and because there's a lot of different road guidelines, if we start snapping to them, it's going to start hurting our grid. Okay, that's going to be fine for me. Now let's bring in another holding frame and we'll place our main building at the head of this road. So I'm going to build a trade school campus, however feel free to build a liberal arts one if you want. The same process and concepts apply, just the names of the buildings are different. And likewise a university campus area if you've already reached a population of 30,000, but trade school is one of my favourites, so I'm going to build a trade school. So I'm going to place this at the head of the road here. Okay, really nice, super important building. And that's going to turn our campus area into a trade school. Let's come into our content creator trees, of course, and have a look at what we can possibly upgrade the road into. Maybe some California palms would be appropriate here, maybe. Something quite bold as we come into the campus area. So, one of the cool things with campus areas is that it kind of functions very similar to park life, in the sense that once you place in a main gate, or in this case a campus main building, all the other assets can then be placed on pathways, and all of your services such as fire, police and healthcare will all arrive at the main administration building to deal with any problems that are on the campus. So don't worry about having roads, you can place everything you need on trade school pathways, or indeed any type of pathway. It doesn't have to be a university one, but it's within the vibe and the theme. Okay, fantastic. So here we go. Let's also name our college after one of our wonderful Patreon subscribers. And we're going to go for the Eggsy School for the Gifted. Thank you so much for all your support, Eggsy. If you guys don't know who Eggsy is, if you're new to Cities Skylines and on the PC, Eggsy is one of the best map makers in the community. He made my ILOS map and my Noveria map. He's the best. Just go and follow his workshop link. He's got some amazing maps if you're on the PC. So, looking at the campus area, very similar to the industries screen that we looked at a couple of episodes ago. We have academic works, which will be automatically generated. You can also commission these up at the top tab here as well for 50,000, but you don't really need to. They generate by themselves anyway. We also need 500 students, again, similar to industries where we needed 500 workers. And we also need campus attractiveness. Campus attractiveness is increased by placing these assets, and indeed you can hover over them to find out that indeed they do create campus attractiveness. So before I place any main buildings, I know that I want public transport integrated into this campus, and I'm thinking this will be the start of an overground metro line. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring out another holding frame here. Now depending if you have some of the content creator packs, please feel free to use one of the content creator stations here, or you can keep it underground if you like, in which case just come and grab your underground station, or you can use some of the vanilla elevated metros, which have quite a nice vibe. And I'm thinking I'm going to go with the metro station that's on the ground here, okay? So these are the ones that were added with the Sunset Harbour patch. They were added for everyone. You don't need the Sunset Harbour DLC to get these. So I'm going to place it here, and again, bearing in mind that this building has a noise pollution value, so not right here, right, because we're going to be encroaching on the residences. Make sure everyone's clear of that radius. And it actually looks like we can align it with the edge of the street, which I think is going to be some appreciated symmetry, isn't it? So let's go for that. Then again, likewise with the rest of your networks now, it's a point where you want to come in and extend, and snapping to the road guideline is going to be helpful here in order to keep in the same curvatures that the highway has. Again, I can see where this is going to want to be terraformed. And I probably will eventually bring this metro line back down to the same height as the highway, which this seems like an appropriate place to do it. There we go. That should be good. Again, grab the metro line now. And we can align it with our highways first. And then bring it up here. And then as we begin to cross into downtown Noobs Guide now, then we can do it via arterial road, metro, and highway. So, preparing all these connections in advance is going to help you plan for traffic, help you plan what's happening ahead. You're not just placing and then building the network around it. This is a nice way to keep on top of your traffic. Okay? Wonderful news. Let's come back into our campus area now and start placing some buildings. So now we've got this initial frame in, we can come in and start placing some dorms. So it's a residential building for students for the duration of their academic studies. The building increases the campus area attractiveness, which is what we need to do. Also boosts our student capacity, which is another thing we need to do. And it also requires a trade school campus area, which we already have. So there you go. You'll add in a dormitory. Very nice assets, and indeed, if you're following my various different series across Cities Skylines, we do talk about how some of these campus assets can be used within downtowns, because a lot of their assets are very big, very important, but we'll come to that. Let's just start this at the minute. And we can see now that we've added in buildings, we're getting students, and campus attractiveness is going up. So I think I'm going to place in a continued pattern of dorms, but I think what I'm going to do is start bringing in some pathways between them. So again, we can create walkability opportunities. Now, I think I'm happy to kind of keep all my dorms located on this side of the campus. So with that idea in mind now, let's continue to extend our initial holding frames and continue to repeat your pattern. So I want to go for a pattern of 3 dorms here, and then this will be the end of my dorm block. So everything can be trimmed off now. And then this can also be fed back down into the network. The main building does have a path network around it that can be snapped, which is very helpful, very cool. Okay. So keep everyone walking. And this is fine for me, right? I'm relatively happy with this aesthetic, so why don't I repeat the pattern here now? Just another little triplet of dorms. Make, I guess, a sextuplet. And we can do some detailing out in the open spaces here. Again, once we unlock some of the larger campus assets, stuff like book clubs will work nicely in this area. Okay, very nice indeed. I'm happy with that. Have a look what else we have to play with. We also have a trade school study hall, which is where the students with spare time can use the study hall to do their homework, projects, or prepare to there it is, or prepare to exams, which makes no sense, but I hope they don't change that for 62. It's legendary. This building increases the campus attractiveness and needs to be placed within the area. Okay, this is great. So the next asset we can place is the trade school. Now, I want to discuss asset orientation here and how factoring in the viewpoint of your assets is really important to getting the campus to look good. So we have this here, right? This is the front of the trade school. It's a little bit underwhelming. It's just sort of a concrete square, quite brutalist looking for those that are into your architecture styles. However, the side of the trade school study hall, in my opinion, looks much more like a front entrance. It's got stairs, nice big glass panes. So I want to orientate this building so this kind of serves as the main entrance, okay? It's amazing. Let's come in and start factoring in, again, some holding frames for this to happen. I'm going to keep this section parallel with my metro, and then let's place in the trade school study hall here. So I'm going to place it at this point, but again, it's the wrong way around. I want it to be facing the metro, so I'm going to draw in a road or a pathway on the opposite side, so I can spin its orientation and then drop it in at this point here. And I want to have it nice and close with the pathway. So, although at the minute this is technically the front of the trade school study hall, I believe this side lends itself much more to a frontage, and is really going to help decorate the view from the highway, the layer of height, the metro, and the front of that building now. So try and factor in orientation. It really makes a massive difference to your builds. Okay, we're getting some water, of course. This will be Coming in as we go in, and then we just need 20 attractiveness now, so we can do this. Let's come in with a book club. Why don't we place a book club fairly centrally within the dorms, so students can come and visit. Okay, and let's just have a little read of what the book club is going to do. So for all students, the book club offers an opportunity to read books and discuss them in a relaxing environment. Book clubs increase campus attractiveness, etc., etc. Very nice, and we can now see that we have met the quota for the level 2 campus attractiveness, and we now just need academic works and student capacity. I can come in and commission an academic work here. Your academic works, they're kind of pointless, but they will be displayed in your museums, which are unlocked after hitting a level 5 of each of the 3 campus areas, but they're mainly used as a leveling up criteria. So I'm going to commission a academic work this year, and it's now a case of leaving our game on 3 speed and waiting until we hit 500 student numbers for people to come and study at the university. Unlike park areas and industry areas, if your criteria falls below the threshold for the current level, it will drop back down to its previous level. It's only campus that behaves like that. So it would be like if you were making an industrial area and it dropped down the workers, it would also drop down a level. It's a little weird, and it can make campuses sometimes hard to level up, but that's what we're here to talk about today. We'll talk about some ways to get past it, and also some policies and, weirdly enough, public transport that can help you get these things to level 5. So that's it for level 1. It is now just a waiting game. I need to hit 500 students and also generate 2 academic works. So while this is going on, go and enjoy your city, do some admin, do some detailing, zone up some new spaces, pay attention to your demands, and then once you get a notification that your campus is at level 2, I'll be right back. And fantastic, our campus has now hit a recognized level, which it was unrecognized last year, and we also get a bunch of new buildings, including a cafeteria, a fountain, a gymnasium, and an outdoor study hall. And it also details the academic works that were generated in this one here. You can read into them, like delivery service for those who find themselves in need for cake, specialized drones bake and deliver cakes, tailored to the user's wishes. It doesn't affect the city, it's just sort of a little bit of city's banter, I suppose, for lack of a better word. But yes, we have hit level 2 now, which is great. We have 2 stars. Let's come into our new buildings. So we have an outdoor study hall, an outdoor study area, rather. So again, it's going to increase our campus area attractiveness and student capacity, which is nice. I think I'm feeling we can actually squeeze that directly outside of the main building, which is very, very appealing. I wonder, do our content creator trees upgrade work on these assets? No, they don't. That's unfortunate. But I don't want it here because I definitely want one of the fountains out front of the campus area, I think. Looks like we can just about centralize that there. Let's also complement with some pathways snapped into just the grid with no road guideline. Maybe repeat the fountain at the front as well. Don't think I'm totally adverse to that. Let's bring it down there. Grab my pathways again as well. And then bring everyone to a nice, sensible close. Go for the decorated versions here if you like. Don't have to use the ones without. You can actually upgrade the ones with decorations, so maybe we make the ones that run north and south into decorations, for which we can choose a tree. Maybe some of the pink jacarandas, eh? Are we happy with that? A little bit of repeated fountain spice is really going to help complement at the front of the campus here, isn't it? Okay, so definitely give your main building like a little bit of breathing room away from your entry arterial. Don't just have it on the main road, you know, give it a bit of a run up, a little bit of importance as people arrive here. Makes a big difference. Anyway, we've placed our campus. Let's now come in and place in a cafeteria and a gymnasium. And again, these are all going to be assets that are up to you as to where you place them, where you position them. So I think I'm feeling expanding my road network, or path network I suppose. Down into the road now, and then also up here, and this gives us some new spaces to start playing with. Let's go for gymnasium. Again, asset orientation and the front of the building should be factored in, really. I don't think I mind that, but I think, however, this asset probably works best actually sat against the road because of the car parking decals on the front. So I'm going to allow that to sit on the road and then bring the path network around it. like so. Okay, and then we can come straight behind here. We'll also allow this one to hug and then come straight down and behind, and there's detail opportunities around here now as well. Okay, so I'll have a gym there. That's going to be wonderful. Let's place in another building. Let's go for trade school cafeteria, perhaps. Okay. Again, I think I like that. But it's an asset that maybe wants to be sat on main road itself. No. No, it doesn't. We want to be on the pathway for the cafeteria. Okay, so we have 2 of those in. And now let's go ahead and find that next building, which was the outdoor study hall. We can definitely place this in somewhere too. It looks like we can probably squeeze in a space here if we were to break this one. Let's go for a fractured pattern there. We'll have a nice outdoor space, and we can link everyone back through with pathways and whatnot. Again, I might want some other buildings around these now to start supporting them. Okay, let's go for a little groundskeeping one here too. So let's see what this does. So the groundskeepers are working hard to try and keep campus areas premises clean, tidy and aesthetically pleasing. The building will increase the campus attractiveness and the land value of the campus area itself. So we'll also get a little building here that's going to buff our land value. Okay, and these are really nice. These work in a variety of different corners. Let's maybe place 2 of these in. I think I'm definitely feeling one near the metro station if we can. It looks like we don't need the power line now because that will sink the power through. That's going to be great. So I'll have that there. That's wonderful. Let's come ahead and check the status of our campus again. Let's see what we need. So yes, we've hit the attractiveness value. We've hit the student number. We currently have the capacity for 2,750. And this year I need 4 academic works, so I'm just going to commission them again, just so I make sure that I get them. So whilst we're waiting for level 3 to arrive, let's come into the wonderful world of varsity sports. So included with the campus DLC, you get 5 new stadiums, an aquatic centre, a basketball stadium, a track and field, a baseball, and an American football. These can be placed outside of campus areas and serve as stadiums. They will draw tourists and vast amounts of traffic. You can place these wherever you want, just on a road. However, if you place them inside a campus area, it will become the university's varsity sport team. So let's have a look at how this works. So I want to carry on bringing my road network up now. Let's come out by a good distance. Let's give ourselves plenty of breathing room here. And I'm going to hook this back into the arterial network. And this feels like a good point to place in a stadium. So which one do we fancy? Now, I do like the idea of track and field. So unlike the regular university assets, the varsity sports can't be placed on pathways. You have to have a road connection, regardless of whether or not they're actually a recognised varsity sports stadium. They must have a road. So this is the track and field stadium. I love the aesthetic of the track and the field. I think that's going to embed into our campus quite nicely. But again, its orientation is really important. And with that in mind, I think I definitely want the track and field facing onto the back of the metro and the highway. So let's box it in near perfectly. Then we can delete it. And we know that that space now is the exact same size we need just to flip the track and field stadium round onto its opposite side. And then we can now have this in here. All right. And I definitely love that orientation, especially once the metro is going to be running back and through here as well. What we'll also do is bring in elevated walking paths that link into the campus from whatever sits on this layer over here too. So lots of walkability over the highway, which will look really good. Fantastic news, everyone. Fantastic news. So now we have a varsity sports. We can come back to the campus area and see that the varsity sport tab is unlocked. Here, where you can change ticket prices, advertisement, and training. The training is extremely expensive. See, if I put this up to max level, it's 25 grand a week. Super expensive. And these do directly affect your chances to win, lose, and draw. And you can also change your team identity here as well, alongside team color. So you can go for the pink Eagles. Why not? Okay, now whatever you want, customize it to you, and then it'll start drawing people in. Okay, so that is it for level 2. We've placed in our new buildings, added in the varsity sports, and I'm currently well over the criteria for hitting level 3. So as always, go in detail, go and enjoy your city, go and do something else, and I'll see you at level 3. And here we are at level 3, where we have the academic statue number 1, the IT club, trade school library, school of tourism and travel, which is one of 3 unique buildings. One is currently already unlocked. We'll have a look at that in a minute. And the trade school commencement office, which is very good indeed. So again, checking our criteria, I am now below the attractiveness value and also below the student value as well to hit level 4. But we can fix that. Come back into trade school and have a look at our new buildings. So we did get the trade school library, which again is a big, chunky, important looking asset. And I can see a fantastic opportunity here where the commencement office can sit near our metro. So this is kind of an animated building, and this is where they'll come and graduate. You'll see a lot of Sims throwing their little hats. I'm not sure what the hat is called. I'm sure someone in the comments will know. The little kind of graduation hat. I'm sure it has a name. They kind of throw them in the air and they all gather here to graduate. It's kind of cute. So I'm going to have that there. So now let's talk about the campus unique buildings. So each of the 3 campus areas has 3 separate unique buildings. The tech school has a police academy, the school of tourism and travel, and the school of engineering. These 3 buildings have a direct effect on the city's services. So for example, the police academy is going to increase the patrol car count, the jail capacity, and the police department efficiency. So all of the police stations across the city are going to get little buffs because of this building. Really cool. So let's see where we can place this. It looks like we've got an opportunity to get it right in opposite the track and field stadium. However, I'm also going to use this opportunity to bring in some Green Cities DLC that we talked about last episode. So I'm going to bring out a space in to leave myself 4 tiles, and then we want to stick within an even number on this side. So 20 units should be acceptable. Let's come in and place our police academy. We can get this right in. That just happens to be a perfect fit. Just amend your frames until you can fit this in. And this is going to start to generate kind of a really important courtyard within the campus. Okay, there's some natural car parking with the track and field stadium, and also with the police academy. But I want more car parking here. Okay, just for the aesthetic. So I'm going to create a regular district. Paint it over where you want your car parks to appear. We're going to give it the local and organic produce specialization from the Green Cities DLC. And then we are going to stagger our zonings with low and high density in 2x4 patterns. And there we go. So as we discussed during the Green Cities episode, it's exactly the same process here. I am waiting for those specific Green Cities assets, the car parks, to come in, and I will have to continually delete them and wait for them to come in. Again, if you're on the PC, plot the growables and find it fixes this incredibly annoying vanilla problem, but we'll do it vanilla for right now. Okay, and also contributing to the eventual crawling height to the skyline here as well, we're slowly adding layers. So it's all contributing to the way the city looks, and stuff you should bear in mind as well. Okay, we also have the School of Tourism and Travel, which is another real chunky boy here, isn't it? Let's see where we can place this maybe. So I would ideally like to keep some kind of campus mall behind the main building here. So let's place in the School of Tourism and Travel in this corner, and we'll see what it does. So the interns bring the best out of the city attractions and shops, so it increases attractiveness and entertainment of leisure buildings, and income from all commercial zones is increased. So all of our commercial zoning, and indeed any leisure that you've built from the nightlife expansion, is going to get a little buff because of this building. Really cool. I like it. Let's place it in next to our stadium. Using the frames as a guideline, we can place that in there. Again, super big, important looking asset. It's going to continually contribute to our crawling height as well from all angles. Okay, and then we can now just amend our frames to come around the back of this and hook into everywhere else. Okay, I'm happy with that. It's also going to really help decorate the highway here too as we're driving past now, right? So hopefully we're seeing the impact of orientation and factoring in the positioning when you're seeing this sort of thing coming together. It's really cool. I love building campuses. It's definitely, I don't know, I feel like campus doesn't get the love it deserves. It's a really good DLC, one of my favourites. So we now have an academic statue. We could possibly switch one of these out for the fountains at the front. It's a nice building, right? Or plaza, I guess, isn't it? It's pretty cute. So I'll switch it out for one of my fountains. We also have an IT club, which I think I'm happy to cluster these kind of book and IT clubs in and around where the students are living. Why don't we also relocate this outdoor study area over here now as well if we can. Let's see if we can somewhat centralize this. That seems a little bit safer, doesn't it? I think I'm happy with that. And Park Life works really nice with campus as well for decoration, which we'll have a look at today as well. So let's bring another pathway through, and we can now use this to place in stuff like our IT club, and indeed some park assets in here as well, if we want to, for decoration purposes during our detailing time-lapse. Wonderful, that's going to be great. Let's come ahead and check our values. So I am 20 off of the next level, so that's a good point to come ahead and place in the library. This is going to take us over that threshold. So let's have a look where we can place this one in. Again, there's a nice little opportunity here now, isn't there, where we can possibly squeeze this in. And this would be a good point now to start talking about public transport integration. So I know that in my city, I have an underground metro line here. Now there is a stop here, which is helping serving the park and the leisure area. That's fine. Now usually I would say this is too close for another stop, but I'm happy to have a dedicated metro line within the university area itself, because it's going to be public transport convergence. People can switch between cycle highway, the elevated metro line which goes into downtown, and the underground line which is currently serving our existing builds that we've done throughout this series so far. So let's pause our game, come underground, delete the existing tunnel, okay, and then grab your curve tool. And we can now create some connections for this one, create this one a touch more as well, and then we can get some nice smooth curves in. Then we can come ahead and grab our stop, move it over to this one, and then likewise this one as well. So it stops on both sides, but you have moved the stop, so don't forget to add them back into the station that you moved them from. And that's going to give us another little layer of public transport for the campus. And again, there's opportunities now for pathways to come through and start hooking everyone in nice detailed fashions and designs. So already now aligning the chunkier assets together, a library, a study hall, the School of Tourism and Travel, a varsity sports building combined with the police academy. And yes, we did get one. We did get one, there we go. Edison Hypercharger is what we're after, everyone. And then just delete everything else and wait for it to come in. Just make that one historical. It takes pure time, but the effort is worth it. Okay, wonderful. So we have hit our attractiveness value by a value of 5. That's really good news. We now need 4 academic work. So again, come in and maybe commission a hospitality one this time. We're going to give the funding for that to make sure we guarantee at least 1 academic work for the year. But I can now see that student numbers are falling. So let's talk about some ways that you can push campuses over, because once you get to level 4, level 5, they can be quite hard to get to that level 5 option to get the last buildings in. Coming into our policies citywide, there is a policy here called Education Boost. This will prioritize education over working for young adults, and it also increases the education budget by 25%. Apply this policy citywide. It's really going to help with getting students into the campus, and then we will talk about it because we have to. We're going to go into public transport. So when we introduced mass transit, we also got blimps as a public transport option. Now, I hate blimps. I think they're incredibly unrealistic as a public transport option. You guys know how I feel about blimps, but they do have a policy that can help boost your education and increase your campuses. So I'm going to place in a blimp depot here. It's definitely not a permanent fixture. And then let's have a little blimp stop somewhere, shall we? So why don't we bring in blimp stop here near our hot air balloons? It's going to seem somewhat appropriate, right? Let's hope that they don't collide. That's just a case of drawing in these lines with the blimp tool, and then you can create a line with the classic public transport line, as with everything else. And then you will see blimps, oh god, they will begin to emerge and fly around your city, and then we can come back in to city policies, and there is an option here for educational blimps, which will switch the adverts and blimps to be educational posters to boost education slightly at no cost. We're going to enable this as well. It's a very small buff to the campus area in terms of getting students in it, but if you're really just struggling for those final few numbers, the blimps can help you. So they're there if you want them. Do they look that bad in the sky? they're not great, are they? They're really not great. Oh look, yes, and some of our buildings have hit level 5 now as well. The ones that we didn't leave historical. So I actually don't mind these ones. This one especially is okay. I don't mind the red one either. Just this one, this is the one we hate. We don't like this one. Alright. Horrendous. There's the one over here as well with a little kind of quiff on it. Let's delete these. We don't want these being part of our midtown. And these two are probably a little bit too tall as well. I'll leave that one historical. I'm happy to have one sort of high-rise in there, but not too many. Okay, so that's a reference from like 5 episodes ago. That's what I was talking about in terms of level 5 assets being horrible. So we've applied the 2 buffs to the area now. Also, bringing in students can just be a case of you need some population. So I've got a little spike for residential demand now. I'm going to start bringing in some new population centres to occupy this space in and around the campus. And again, expanding our networks out with the road guideline first of all is going to help keep everyone nice and symmetrical and happy. We can bring these guys down. Let's go for a slightly shorter curve space here, so not everything's totally straight. There we go. And a little curve in. Very nice indeed. And again, all your sort of similar suburban processes and designs that can now come into this space. Start linking it through with current existing networks if you like, and feeding that into here. Start bringing down some dead-end cul-de-sac roads. You know, and bear in mind, be careful of where you're zoning near a highway, because highways are loud roads. So, all things to bear in mind that you've been picking up throughout this series, and as you've just been getting to grips with the game yourself as well. This is going to be great for me. I'm just going to zone these boys up, and again, I think a nice thick layer of live oaks between this suburb and the highway is going to help shelter that noise pollution a little bit more. So I'll get everyone zoned up. Again, this is going to continually feed my student count. And again, it's now just a waiting game. Go and detail, go and explore, refine your campus, wait for your car parks to come in, which I'm getting 2 of. That's incredibly lucky. They never come in that quickly. That's amazing. Yeah, so just a few more to go. And again, we are getting worker demands for these, so we definitely want the worker population nearby so they don't abandon, which would be a kick in the balls to say the least. So, I will see you at level 4 once we hit the required criteria. I can't miss this. We're just in the process of waiting for level 4, and the walkability is very much coming into play now that there are public transport options nearby. The varsity sports buildings draw a ton of traffic, and if there isn't public transport nearby for people to get away from here, a lot of them will drive. But we can see now with tram, cycling, and metro nearby that everyone is choosing to walk back through the campus on a match day and grab the metro station. This is a sign of well interlinked public transport when people will walk into them from major buildings like this. So, important that we factor in public transport near our campuses, especially if your campus has a varsity sports building as well. And wonderful, we have arrived at level 4, everyone, where we gained 3 new buildings, including the auditorium, the bookstore, and the laboratories. So let's place these in order to hit the next threshold level. So you see we actually need a bunch more campus attractiveness in order to hit that final level. And thankfully enough, we are currently at our student capacity, or student numbers that we need, but of course, time will pass before we hit the academic works, so we will hopefully see what we look like once we get there. So again, all these assets are going to continue to increase campus attractiveness and student capacity, and I can see now that I'm just starting to run out of room in my initial sort of space that we'd saved, so I'm going to bring my campus area out. Also going to factor another stop into the campus as well, at least so we can see the overground metro sort of being used, at least in today's episode. So we will break the line very briefly. And again, we will align first of all with the road guideline of the highway, because we know that that is our favourite parallel point. Hopefully this still allows us to place in a regular on the ground vanilla station, which it does. Fantastic. And then again, a little bit of road guideline here is going to be wonderfully helpful for just bringing your connections back in on nice sensible curvatures. Likewise, this one can also basically just be amended now, right, and flow off down there. Make sure that we continually hook in with the road networks as well. probably bring these two up to the same point and then mimic the curve. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? There we go. Fantastic. Let's also bring a road out from this point and start to create a new area or courtyard for the campus to sit in. So of course, you can use pathways here, as long as the pathways are extending through your campus area. They don't have to be on the roads, but I think as I get towards the larger end of the buildings, I kind of prefer them on the roads, but each to their own. So I'm going to place in an auditorium here. Let's go for one right there. Again, factoring in the positioning of the asset, how it looks, all important stuff, right? And I don't think I'm particularly happy with that, okay? So let's go for an academic statue out front. And we can actually maybe introduce some repeated academic statue action in these spaces here. Now, this could be too much, but we'll try it. We'll try something new together. Kind of opens up the courtyard a little bit. I definitely don't like the repeated trees though. This is where beautifying our builds comes in massively helpful for this game. But we will come in with some pathways, and then I'm going to place my auditorium on the back of this, so it faces into the academic statue. That's going to be a happy days for me. I'll let the path network come back out as well. Get out there for right now. Find another one of our buildings. Let's go for the labs, which again is a really super important looking asset. Very, very large, very eye-drawing. So I think I'm going to continually use it to decorate up the highway here. Making sure that it's not kind of breaking the vibe and the look of your campus too much as well. And we also come into the bookstores now. So I'm going to again bring down my arterial connection, which is cycling road here. And I'm going to want this to basically come across the bay with the highways as well. So that'll be done during our highway road or downtown road network episode. Once we pop this next tile here, we can then start constructing something of a coastal downtown, which is actually surrounded by feces at the minute thanks to the water treatment, but we'll change that when we can. Okay, and then the bookstores actually work really nicely as sort of main road assets. I'm a huge fan of them, even away from campus areas. They're just quite important looking, or maybe not when you get them on the terrain junk there. Let's find a better place for it than that. I think maybe we'll place it here instead. Okay, so you can just start piecing these assets together now to create little courtyards. There's maybe some space here where we can afford to perhaps squeeze through and a little bit of freeform action now, so we're not staying quite as rigid. Okay, and then we can look to develop a little bit of a commercial and important building centre around the metro, which we will actually get flowing now, so we can introduce new public transport in. Which again, it's fairly short at the minute, but this will feed into the downtown and become an extensive line eventually, but not right now. And that's going to be fine for me, I think. Alright, I'm happy with this now. Again, we can see that we've jumped halfway up to the campus attractiveness value again. So just a case of meeting those criteria. You will eventually kind of realise that the DLCs all kind of follow a similar format. And I'm thinking maybe another cafeteria now, opposite my laboratories and bookstore. You will end up reusing some of the same assets, of course, to hit level 5. Okay, and then why don't we have a look at a placement of some sort of design to sit outside of the metro station. Probably one of the academic fountains is going to work nicely here, and if we can centralise that with the doorway, that's going to be really appreciated, isn't it? Back into our pathways. Again, mix and match pathways if you want. Also worth noting that the campus paths are different when they're elevated compared to the park paths. They do have some sort of teal and copper looking numbers on them when elevated, so important to note in if you're playing with elevated infrastructure, which we will be today, but it will be bike network, not walking. And again, I think I'm happy to start complementing with some smaller commercial zonings now, again using the sizes and shapes that you're comfortable and familiar with. So we have some cafes and whatnot to grow up out in this direction. It's going to be great. Let's link everyone back through again. There we go. I don't like this path network though. This wants to be a little bit refined, doesn't it? Let's see if we can slightly amend the position of this stuff over here. You know, this is kind of what I'm talking about. You know, don't be afraid to delete existing infrastructure to refine an idea. I do it all the time. And I think that's kind of a big take home from this game as well, is to not get too locked into an idea. Ideas can be flexible. The builds can change to the area's requirements, essentially. Okay, again, scouting out your favourite assets is always going to be appreciated. Definitely don't really like these. And if you're playing with the University City Content Creator Pack, then a lot of those assets work nicely in here, but again, without Find It, you do have to wait for them to come in organically. Okay, so let's carry on placing in some more Chungus assets. Let's definitely go for another library out here as well. Maybe up and against the main road. I think I maybe want to just sort of yeah, because we're dropping down quite a heavy lip here, and that's going to really affect the way that the city looks. So let's make sure that we continue this plateau that we're building the campus on before we move away from it, and then it'll be a lot easier to kind of tether builds that are in a similar vibe and not going to mess up the terrain into this area in subsequent episodes as well, if we deal with the terrain now. Let's get another bookstore along the main road, and then we'll drop in another outdoor study area over here, continually bringing in our walkability, and this will more than likely be kind of the back boundary of the campus area now. This is where we'll finish it off. We won't go any further out than this. So this is a fairly compact campus, and they can get significantly larger and more intricate, kind of the more open space you start including, and the different sort of initial frames that you work with too. Lots of different variations and possibilities available with the campus DLC. It's a good one. Make sure everyone's watered. Okay, so before we move on and wait for level 4, once we've hit our campus attractiveness value, want to bring over the elevated cycle highway into the campus. So we're going to expand it from this point. It's going to come over. It's going to have to come just ever so slightly behind the metro station. Get a small little curve in like that. I think that's pretty nice. But now I'm going to keep this running parallel with the metro. And it's at this point now we can just introduce different stops off of the cycle highway into this area. I think I'm happy to have one right here. That's going to flow straight into the campus area. So it's also across the highway. Again, we can come out here, and how you choose to come down is indeed entirely up to you. I'm going to go for a little curve here. You can do a spiral if you like. Or any other sort of on-off ramp system that we've done before in the city. Maybe one of these over here. Some slightly more square, rigid ones. Whatever way you like that gets someone on off the cycle highway. That's what matters. And again, it's another layer of infrastructure, isn't it? So hopefully now, I'm really hammering home the point of terraforming, asset orientation, running parallel networks together in certain places. It really contributes to the city, you know? I hope that this hammers home the point, and especially once it's detailed with repeated tree patterns and part life fencing through here, and overgrowth and trees. It's going to look great, especially with the metro coming by now as well. Huge fan of it. But either way, that is all we really need now until level 5. It's just going to carry on placing. I've got about another 150 worth of attractiveness to get, which is like probably 2 or 3 assets. So I'll place those down. I'll wait for my academic works. And hopefully we can maintain the student numbers to get to level 5 today. That would be amazingly helpful. Otherwise, I will see you at level 5, and then we can have a look at some detailing work. Okay guys, and there we have it. Prestigious. And we unlock the School of Engineering, the Trade School, Academic Statue, Media Lab, and the Technology Museum, plus the Beach Volleyball Club, and your usual academic works. So some tips for getting your campus to level 5. I spammed all of my policies. I also spammed some laboratories in order to get the attractiveness up to the final level. And I brought in a little batch of high-density residential along the arterial road that sits opposite the campus, just so there's fresh population and fresh uneducated population that can come into the campus to keep the campus at level 5. However, once the campus is at level 5 and you've met your attractiveness value, it's at this point now where you can come in and delete all the buildings that you placed just to cheese up the attractiveness, because I definitely don't want 2 laboratories right here next to each other. And the campus can now take the form and shape that I want it to at max level. So looking at what we unlocked, we grabbed the Media Lab, which is a really cool looking asset. I love the Tech Media Lab. Nice big glass front on it, some stairs as well. Super important looking asset. Big fan of this one. So we're going to drop in the media lab. We also have the beach volleyball club, which is in a similar vein to the chess and IT clubs, so it can probably occupy space within the dorms. And then we also got the second trade school academic statue, which again can be placed around in a variety of different places. So why don't we maybe place 2 either side of the main entrance road, which again is going to help reinforce the symmetry as we enter into the campus area today. Okay. And then the School of Engineering, you can use this over here if you want. Again, it's another unique building. It's actually going to increase all generic zoned industry income whilst reducing the city's water consumption and sewage outlets. So a really useful building, but it's also quite big, and I want to save this for my downtown area. I really like using the School of Engineering in the downtowns, so I'm going to put it in temporarily here today. But when we come to build Downtown Noobs Guide, I am going to relocate my School of Engineering. So again, I'm going to terraform out this plateau that the campus is sat on. It's going to be really fun now to see all these different layers coming in to complement each other once this build comes together, and especially once we have bridges over the river, probably in a couple of episodes' time once we come to work on that road network. Then it'll be really cool. So again, we're going to want a road to hold the School of Engineering for a temporary bit of time anyway. Paint out the area as well. And there we go. So we don't break that line. But something like that. Okay, super big, important looking asset, right? So again, it's going to be here temporarily for me, just so we can see it in the episode. But I do like to use the campus buildings, I guess, away from their intended purpose. But it makes a difference, alright? And then we know that this road is now going to start elevating and ascending across the bay as it heads into downtown. So we've prepared lots of networks today. A highway, monorail, cycling, 2 arterial roads are now ready to be fed into the downtown whenever we need it. However guys, that does feel like a wonderful place for a detailing time-lapse. Now we have a level 5 campus, it's time to come in and bring in all of our favourite repeated tree patterns alongside the edge of the network, some fencing between the highway as well. Some bush and overgrowth detailing in and around the campus, including some rock gardens in the open spaces and all your favourite little detailing palettes that you've come to be so fond of. A little bit of park fencing here and indeed around the entire edge of the campus to mark it as an enclosed campus with some pathways in and out. And I'll also carry on introducing a couple little entry and exit points for the cycle highway as it comes to run parallel with the road highway and heads into downtown. So, as always, let's detail up our first campus, and we'll be right back. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. And if you've really enjoyed it and have fallen in love with the content, there are ways to support me via Instant Gaming and Patreon down below. I hope you've managed to pick up some tips of how to get a campus to level 5 today, and also factor in the networks around it, different layers of height when terraforming, public transport integration, the varsity sports, all the unique buildings here. There's lots to get to grips with campus, and it's a really fun DLC. Of course, this is only one type of university. There's also 2 other types that we haven't looked at today. So it's really cool. I think it's quite underappreciated campus. Definitely one of like my top 3 DLCs. I love this one. So cool. But otherwise, lots of tightly knitted little palm gardens using some farm fencing and some general lightly overgrown areas in and around where we have the space for them. And also some refinement of the asset placement like cafeterias to sit near the car park near the Central Police Academy. And also some work up near the front, but there was a ton of detail you guys wouldn't have seen. So please do hang around for the actual cinematics, but otherwise I will shut up and I will leave it there. Just thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.